Hello, hello friends. Thanks for joining again. And as you all know, this was our third third episode, or you can say third part. So now we will begin from the page number 21. So Roosevelt went to. Wait a second. So Roosevelt went to Africa to shoot lions. When he turned, he exploded. He denounced Taft for his conservatism, tried to secure the nomination for a third term himself, formed the Bull Moose Party, and all but demolished the GOP of the election that followed William Howard Taft. The Republican Party carried only two states, Vermont and Utah, the most disastrous defeat the party had ever known. Theodore Roosevelt blamed Taft, but did President Taft blame himself? Of course not. With tears in his eyes, With tears in his eyes, Taft said, "I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have. Who has to blame, Roosevelt or Taft? Frankly, I don't know, and I don't care." The the point I'm trying to make is that all of Theodore Roosevelt's criticism didn't persuade Taft that he was wrong. It merely made Taft strive to justify himself and to retaliate with tears in his eyes. "I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have done, from what I have." Or take the Teapot Dome oil scandal. It kept the newspapers ringing with indignation in the early 1920s. It rocked the nation within the memory of living men. Nothing like it had ever happened before in American public life. Here are the bare facts of the scandal. Albert B. Fall, Secretary of the Interior in Harding's cabinet, was entrusted with the leasing of government oil reserves at Elk Hill and Teapot Dome. Oil reserves that had been set aside for the future use of the Navy. Did Secretary Fall permit competitive bidding? No, sir. He handed the fat, juicy contract outright to his friend Edward Doheny. And what did Doheny do? He gave Secretary Full what he was pleased to call a loan of $100,000. Then, in a high-handed manner, Secretary Fall ordered United States Marines into the district of drive of competitors whose adjacent wells were sapping oil out of the Elk Hill reserves. These competitors driven off their ground at the end of guns and bayonets. Bennett rushed into a court and blew the lid off the teapot dome scandal. A stench arose so vile that it ruined the Harding administration. Now seated, an entire nation threatened to wreck the Republican Party and put Albert B. Fall behind prison bars. Fall was condemned viciously, condemned as few men in public life have ever been. Did he repent? Never. Years later, Howard Hobart intimated in a public speech that President Harding's death had been due to mental anxiety and worry because a friend had betrayed him. When Miss Paul heard that, she sprang from her chair, she wept, she shook her fists at, at fate and screamed, "What? Harding betrayed by Fall? No, my husband never betrayed anyone. This whole house full of gold would not tempt my husband to do wrong. He's the one who has been betrayed and laid to the slaughter and crucified, crucified. They, there you are, human nature in action. Wrongdoers blaming everybody but themselves. We are all like that. So when you and I are tempted to criticize someone tomorrow, let's remember A.I. Capone, Two Gun, Crowley, and Albert Fall. Let's realize that criticisms are like homing pigeons, they always return home. Let's realize that the person we are going to correct and condemn will probably justify himself or herself and condemn us in return. Or, like the gentle Taft will say, I don't see how I could have done any differently from what I have. On the morning of April 15th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln lay dying in a hall bedroom of a cheap lodging house directly across the street from Ford's Theatre, where John Wilkes Booth had shot him. Lincoln's long body lay stretched diagonally across a sagging bed that was too short for him. A cheap reproduction of Rosa Bonheur famous painting, The Horse Fair, hung above the bed, and dismal gas jet nickered yellow light. Lincoln lay dying. Secretary of War Stanton said, "There lies the most perfect ruler of men that the world has ever seen." What was the secret of Lincoln's success in dealing with the people? I studied the life of Abraham Lincoln for 10 years and devoted all of 3 years to writing and rewriting a book entitled Lincoln the Unknown. I believe I have made as detailed and exhaustive a study of Lincoln's personality and home life as it is possible for any being to make. I made a special study of Lincoln's method of dealing with people. Did he indulge in criticism? Oh yes. As a young man in the Pigeon Creek Valley of Indiana, he not only criticized but he wrote letters and poems ridiculing people and dropped these letters on the country roads where they were sure to be found. One of these letters aroused resentments that burned for a lifetime. Even after Lincoln had become a practicing lawyer in Springfield, Illinois, he attacked his opponents openly in letters published in the newspapers, but he did this just once too often. In the autumn of 1842, he ridiculed a vain pugnacious politician by the name of James Shields. Lincoln lampooned him through an anonymous letter published in the Springfield Journal. The town roared with laughter. Shields, sensitive and proud, boiled with indignation. He found out who wrote the letter lived on his horse. He started after Lincoln and challenged him to fight a duel. Lincoln didn't want to fight. He was opposed to dueling, but he couldn't get out of it and save his honor. He was given the choice of weapons. Since he had very long arms, he chose cavalry, broadswords, and took lessons in sword fighting from West Point graduate on the appointed day. He and Shields met on a sandbar in the Mississippi River, prepared to fight to the death. But at the last minute, their second interrupted and stopped the duel. That was the most lurid personal incident in Lincoln's life. It taught him an invaluable lesson in the art of dealing with people. Never again did he write an insulting letter. Never again did he ridicule anyone, and from that time on, he almost never criticized anybody for anything. Time after time during the Civil War, Lincoln put a new general at the head of the army for the Potomac, and each one in turn McClellan, Pope, Burnside, Hooker, Meade blundered tragically and drove Lincoln to pacing the floor in despair. Half the nation savagely condemned these incompetent generals, but Lincoln, with the malice toward none, with charity for all, held his peace. One of his favorite quotations was "Judge not that yet ye be not judged." And when Miss Lincoln and others spoke harshly of the Southern people, Lincoln replied, "Don't criticize them. They are just what we would be under similar circumstances. Yet, if any man ever had occasion to criticize, surely it was Lincoln. Let's take just one illustration. The Battle of Gettysburg was fought during the first 3 days of July 1863. During the night of July 4th, Lee began to retreat southward while storm clouds deluged the country with rain. When Lee reached the Potomac with his defeated army, he found a swollen, impassable river in front of him, a victorious Union army behind him. Lee was in trap. He couldn't escape. Lincoln saw that here was a golden heaven sent opportunity, the opportunity to capture Lee's army and end the war immediately. So, with the surge of high hope, Lincoln ordered Meade not to call a council of war but to attack Lee immediately. Lincoln telegraphed his orders and then sent a special messenger to Meade demanding immediate action. And what did General Meade do? He did the very opposite of what he was told to do. He called council of war in direct violation of Lincoln's order. He hesitated, he procrastinated, he telegraphed, the water recorded, and Lee escaped over the Potomac with his forces. Lincoln was furious. What does this mean? Lincoln cried and to his son Robert, "Great God, What does this mean? We had them within our grasp and had only to stretch forth our hands and they were ours. Yet another that I could hear or do good, make the army move. Under the circumstances, almost any general could have defeated Lee. If I had gone up there, I could have whipped him myself. In bitter disappointment, Lincoln sat down and wrote Meade this letter. And remember, the period of Lincoln was extremely conservative and retained in the phraseology. So, this letter coming from Lincoln in 1863 was tantamount of the severest rebuke. My dear General, thank you and have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow again at the same time, same place with a new chapter. I think it's the third chapter only. I read half of them from 21 to 25 page number. We'll try to complete this chapter by tomorrow or day after tomorrow with the same energy. Till then, keep yourself safe. Always pray to God and stay happy. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you friends. Happy Diwali.